War Thunder and talk about some stuff before I went and played my piano. My drawer is like all fucked up. It keeps coming out, like every time I'm just sitting at my desk, the drawer will slide open eventually. There's not too much that I am able to do about it. I've tried to fix it, but the drawer just won't stay shut. But I'm going to be talking about weed, gambling, alcohol, and stuff like that. I'm going to give you some backstory. So last night I joined a Discord call with my friends, and one of my friends, he was playing League of Legends, and he was opening these packs to get a skin for one of the characters. It's like a $200 skin or whatever the hell. And I think that shit is so dumb, in my opinion. I'm always like, what value does this have? And you can always say that, like, you know, you're doing something that you enjoy and you're gonna have that thing for a while, and that's fair, I suppose. Like, let's see, like I got some disc plates the other day hang up on my wall, and it's cool because I get to look at them and I get to like feel them, and they're metal, they're pretty dope, and they're like actually very good quality. Um, but anyways, so it's kind of like gambling, really, is what that is for the League of Legends skin. And he doesn't even like give a fuck about the skin necessarily. He just is like doing it to do it. Like CS:GO. Like last year in February, there were those cases that released, whatever they're called, and he spent like I don't know $300 or so on cases, which is dumb in my opinion. But I mean, that's what he did. Um, but we're talking about like, should you be doing stuff like this basically today? Um, I definitely think that gambling is probably worse than smoking weed. Just out of like the what you get out of it. Like usually, if you're smoking weed, like you get a good experience, or maybe like you're hanging out with your friends and you light up. I suppose that would be pretty fun. Like I've smoked weed a couple times before in my life, and it was like, eh. I mean, it was a bit fun, but it wasn't like as fun as I thought it was going to be. Like the hype did not live up. Did not live up to the hype, I should say. So I was just kind of like, eh. Like it was fun to do, but it didn't really. I don't know. It's just like something you do every once in a while that you shouldn't do consistently. Because I think, in my personal opinion, people that chronically smoke weed, they don't have the best kind of life. Like most of the people that I've encountered in my life that smoke weed, they don't have the best of life, and they're not willing to make their lives better. They're not willing to take the extra step to like to enhance what like their life is. And then like I see this theme of people that chronically smoke weed. They're always saying like they have horrible mental health issues, and like they do it because they have anxiety and shit. And when I hear something like that, what I hear is people that are making excuses because they don't want to deal with the issues in their life. Like if someone says they have anxiety, well, the question's always, why do you have anxiety? Like, what caused you to have anxiety? And, you know, maybe there was like a certain event that happened in their life. Maybe someone died. Maybe there was like a car accident or something, and they have anxiety now. And really what you would want to do is deal with the anxiety so you don't have it anymore, or you have less of it, right? And doing something such as a drug like weed, that's only going to make it worse because it's not actually dealing with the situation itself. It's just dealing with manipulating your emotions. Well, we got a couple of targets there. Kind of crashed into the mountain, but oh well. And there's a lot of people that I've noticed that smoke weed heavily and they spend an exorbitant amount of money on weed. Like I knew someone and I asked someone, this was like 4 years ago, so I'm sure the number has gone up. And he smokes weed a lot. He had like a dab pen. And I was like, hey, like how much money do you spend on weed every month? And he's like, oh, like $300. Like, $300 on a drug every month is fucking absurd to me. And there's like the big debate if weed is addictive or not. I fully believe it is. Because I asked this guy, I was like $300 a month. Don't you think that's a bit much? And he like, they fucking throw the whole kitchen sink at you saying like how it's not addictive and they're doing it because they have anxiety and shit. And it's like, if you're spending $300 fucking dollars a month on something, you're probably addicted to it. You know, just a thought. You know, that's a bit fucking excessive to me. And it's like, well, if that's not addictive, then who's to say that a chronic gambler has an addiction? Like, well, obviously they could just quit with that logic, right? Since they're not addicted. Obviously. Which that just sounds fucking stupid because, like, obviously they have a problem, right? So, it's an addiction. It's just what it is. Let's call it what it is here, you know? In gambling, I think that gambling is probably worse than weed because, you know, I might have just bitched about weed there for a while, but at least, like, you get an enjoyable experience out of it, right? In gambling, I mean, does anyone have fun gambling? Or is it like just an addiction? Because for me, what I've observed is people that gamble, well, they just lose all their money and then they're miserable after it. It's like, well, you didn't get anything. Like in the moment, you weren't having a good time. You were in the mindset of, oh, I'm gonna hit it big, and you didn't, right? So it's like, what's the point other than the addiction? And it's not like, I don't see any real benefit of gambling other than giving like a casino your money. Like I don't see any kind of like benefit. Like it doesn't give you any health benefit. It doesn't give you like a mental benefit. Like at least weed, you could make the argument that it gives you a mental benefit, even though I don't necessarily think that is 100% true. If you're just using it to help with some kind of mental issue, it's not going to help because your issue isn't being dealt with if you're just smoking weed. It's putting you in a mindset where you don't care about the issue. That's not dealing with it, but it's giving you some sort of like mental relaxation in the moment, right? And it's kind of like a hard thing because you've got the argument of, well, if they're not hurting anyone and it's just hurting themselves, then, you know, that's perfectly fine, right? And I find that argument to be so fucking stupid because let's say someone's doing heroin, right? And they're overdosing. Do you say, well, because it's not hurting anyone, they should have the ability to do it? Like that's fucking, like, if that's stupid. If someone's like gonna kill themselves because they have horrible mental problems, do you say, well, because it's not hurting anyone else, they should have the ability to do it, right? Like that's fucking, that's just so stupid. That's like, when I hear that, what I hear is people don't want to help because they don't care. That's what I hear, and that's what I think is true. It's kind of like with, this is going to be a bit of a fucking stretch here, but just stay with me. It's kind of like how people that are okay with open borders, like all these people, they're like, people should be allowed to come into the country even if they're like illegal, if they're breaking the law, if they're not like a citizen, they don't have a passport, if they haven't been given the authorization from the United States government to come in, they should still be allowed to come in. And it's like, well, where are those people going to go? And then you say to yourself, well, let's send them to those people that want them to come in. And then You send them to their fucking house, and they're like, I don't want these people here. It's like, well, this is exactly what you wanted. Now you have to fucking deal with the consequences, right? Like, for those people that say that they should be allowed to do things like that because shit, I'm about to get fucked up here. Oh, they just shot my damn off or something. Okay, oh, my fucking plane. Oh, okay, it was the anti-aircraft guns. Like, the people that say, well, because it's not hurting anyone, they should be allowed to do it. If they were in a similar situation, I fucking guarantee you they would want some help. They would absolutely want some help. And let's say those people are right. Let's take it a step forward, a step further, fucking, because they're just being pussies about it. So why don't we get rid of all of the, like, addiction centers? Like, I don't know what they're called exactly, like the rehabilitation centers that help people out with that. Like, why don't you get rid of those? Like, since it's okay for them to do it, right? And it's like, it's so dumb because then you realize, like, oh, this is here because people have a problem. So, like, obviously there's like a lapse in logic, because if you're saying it's perfectly fine for them to do this thing, but then there's rehabilitation centers for them to get better from this thing. Like, they don't have rehabilitation centers for people that like to work out. They don't have rehabilitation centers for people that like to laugh. They don't have rehabilitation centers for people that enjoy going out in nature or painting or learning some kind of skill or trait or like a new language. Like, they don't have rehabilitation centers for people that are learning new languages because it's not fucking bad for you, right? I mean, it's pretty simple in my opinion. Maybe it's not. I mean, it is a pretty complex issue as to why these things are bad, because, you know, there's so many different points of view, and the different life instances aren't the same. Like, not everyone that does cocaine overdoses. I'm sure there's a large amount that do, not everyone does. There was a girl in my school who bought weed from someone at school, and she had a seizure on the school steps because there was K2 in the weed. Like, that doesn't happen to everyone that smokes weed, right? I mean, like Snoop Dogg. Snoop Dogg's been smoking weed since, like, the beginning of time. You know, in the beginning there was nothing, and then there was Snoop Dogg smoking some weed, right? He hasn't died, obviously, and he can outsmoke, like, fucking anyone in the world, probably. I guess we got absolute shit on. Go in, well, let's see. It was a pretty cool plane. And then you have, well, should the government, you know, be stepping in to deal with these sorts of problems? And I find it odd that the government has decided to, what? Oh, I thought these dudes were crashing on the ground. I find it odd that the government has decided to step in and put regulations forth with things like weed, but they haven't really done anything about gambling. Like, you see gambling advertisements all the time, and it is so frustrating to me to see that, because I listen to, like, Joe Rogan, or, like, I'll watch a sports game every once in a while. Like, I was watching the Penn State game versus Notre Dame last night, and there was, like, gambling advertisements all over the screen during the breaks, and the government doesn't regulate that stuff at all. Like, there's apps on your phone that you can gamble on. Like, you can't download an app on your phone and smoke weed off the app. Like, it's completely different. Like, you could get on your phone and order something. Maybe you could get on some app and order some weed to your house. I mean, that is something you could do, but you can't, like, download an app, put your credit card information in like you can a gambling app, and just, like, completely ruin your fucking life. And there's no regulation against it. This fucking faggot. I shouldn't have said that, son of a bitch. Okay, what was that guy's name? Yeah, if I can, I'm gonna fucking crash into this guy. But anyways, because I'm a petty motherfucker. But yeah, you see all these advertisements for gambling, and you don't see nearly as many for weed as you do gambling. Like, gambling is everywhere. It's all over every single Spotify podcast. It's all over YouTube. It's all over TV. It's all over movies and stuff. Like, if you have one of those subscription-based services where you get movies and stuff, there's advertisements on those, and they advertise for gambling as well. Like, it's a huge, huge business because the house always wins. That's why gambling exists, because if gambling didn't exist, then they wouldn't be in business. Like, it's not a sustainable business model. Like, so these people just, like, rip off a bunch of people. Like, you see someone that wins $2 million every once in a while, or $3 million, something crazy like that, right, off of gambling. But it doesn't happen that often. Like, you see that, what, every maybe 5 months, every 6 months, or something like that. And it doesn't happen, like, think of how much money these people probably make in a day. No, I don't want you to fucking level out. I want you to...
Our victory is near.
There we go. Easy peasy. Alright, we got him, fellas. Gun is reloading. How do I go? Press Y. Nonsense. And then it's the same thing for alcohol. Like, I would say that alcohol is probably worse for you than weed. It's worse than gambling in, like, what it physically does to your body. Like, alcohol is a big cause of things like heart disease. And there was a new study that came out which said that alcohol could cause cancer. So it does that to your body. Whereas, where things damn it. And I saw this study one time about what alcohol does to your brain, and it showed like a young brain that had some alcohol, and you could see it was like progressively moving further back into the brain, like the effects of the alcohol. It was like the way it was interacting with the neurons, it was like killing them. So you basically like have less brain activity if you're like a chronic drinker or stuff like that, because I mean, it like you get like liver failure, or which I think liver is the one that processes substances through your body. I think it's liver or the kidneys. I can't remember which one. But that's why you have like liver cancer, like problems with the particular organ related to filtrating alcohol. If you drink too much, you like basically, it's like a poison to your body, right? That's why people die from like alcohol poisoning. Like, you get some young kid that goes to a party and they've never like drank before, and then they go crazy, and then they have to go get their stomach pumped. Like, you don't see people getting their stomach pumped because they drank too much water, but you do see it for got killed by weed. How ironic, we're talking about weed and alcohol and stuff like that, and I get killed by weed. But yeah, I should have probably wrote some things down that I wanted to talk about, but I'm not really too good at that. I don't like that, the whole like scripting your videos and stuff like that. I just kind of like talking. I think it's more natural, in my opinion. But you know, I don't think those things are good for you. I think that weed can be good for you in moderation, like if you smoke every once in a while because your friends are over, or there's like a big football game, like you're going to watch the Super Bowl and you want to smoke some weed. Like, I think that's completely fine. Same thing with alcohol. Like, I don't think it's bad to have a drink like twice or 3 times a week. If you're having a drink every single day and you're drinking like 3 beers, it's probably not good for you, you know? Probably going to have some problems because of that. I have a friend, and he loved drinking beer. He is a big, big fan. And he used to drink every single day. He would drink like 3 or 4 beers a day. And I was talking to him one time, and he said that he was gonna start drinking on the weekend because he felt like he was getting dumber, and that he like couldn't recover from the alcohol, which I found quite interesting. Because he was a big fan of drinking, so it definitely was affecting him in a negative way because he was doing it so much, and he always felt like groggy and lightheaded whenever he woke up, and he was very sluggish to start the day. But that's because, like, you know, you could say that's because he just wasn't a morning person, which is completely fair. Like, I can see how you would make that argument. I definitely don't disagree with you. That could be a reason. But I think that it was enhanced because of the alcohol. I did not drop the ball. Fuck, I forgot. I need to press the space key, not the key with my mouse, because that's for rockets. But yeah, this is basically just me talking, like, yapping about certain things right, certain things wrong, what my perspective is. Because I don't think that, like, any of the things that I talked about are good for you. But I think in moderation they can be okay. So yeah, that was about it. I hope y'all enjoyed the video, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day.